Whatever it is we practice, we become.
Everyone's dealing with something different. Like for me, I've had 10 knee surgeries. I've had 5 ACL tears.
You are not failing fitness. Fitness is failing you. You can practice
So true.
feeling less than, and you become really good at feeling less than.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm gonna do something that's bigger than just myself. I had an eating disorder for 10 years straight, and I just had this quiet shame that I wasn't enough.
I would count every calorie. I wouldn't let a French fry touch my lips. We need women who have assets and resources and influence, such as yourself and others, who are creating the next pathway for future women.
It's all of our responsibility to change the narrative so that when these girls are born into this world, they are taught and reinforced what they are born with, which is love of their bodies.
We don't love intros, so I'm just going to say it. It's Lauren Deletsky.
I'm Jacki Jamelis.
And welcome to the Click Clack podcast. We haven't recorded in a few weeks, so this has been, I'm like so glad to be back with you.
Me too.
I missed you so much.
Missed you too.
We just like get so stoked when we're recording.
Yes.
Like we just forget that we're even recording and we're just freaking chatting.
I had the itch to record.
I know. We talked about that a lot. You know, over the holidays, you kind of feel like it's Groundhog's Day. Like you're like, what even day is it? I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Right, like who cares? Because we don't have anything to do the next day except fucking eat and chill.
It's seriously so true. I felt like shit. Like every day I'm
eat
like,
and chill, maybe work out here and there.
Much. But I'm so stoked about the kickoff of all of these women's events. What are you like most jazzed about?
I mean, I think the obvious one is Unrivaled. I think that is something that's been talked about for a really long time. And now that it's finally coming to fruition and the players are there and they're practicing and they're getting ready for games, it's just going to be such a different and unique aspect 3-on-3. It's just like, thinking about it, I'm just like, is this going to be entertaining? I don't know. Like, can't wait to really watch it and dive into it.
We're going to watch it together.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
Of course we are.
Yeah. Super excited about Unrivaled. League One volleyball kicked off. I mean, the players were amazing. You know, I never really grew up watching volleyball. I played volleyball a few times, but I'm just super excited about the emergence of the sport because it's huge amongst high school girls, college girls, but also what really stood out to me, and I saw this when they announced it back in November, but Revolve, which is a major women's brand, is the sponsor of the jersey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so like when I was looking at coverage of the game, I'm like, it feels like a women's experience.
Right.
Because women's brands are showing up
That's
that
huge.
Identifiably are women,
Yeah.
right? And getting into sport. And I think, again, like, you know, this Beauty, Sephora, like that makes sense to me, but seeing clothing brands, Skims, Revolve, like that's what we need to start seeing, in my opinion, to really shift and make women feel part of sport.
Absolutely.
It's having women's brands really show up. Because it's like, you know, like the traditional sportswear providers, like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're ubiquitous across a lot of different teams, both male and female. But like, that's where we start getting surprised.
That is a really cool fact. I didn't know. That
really,
is seriously awesome.
It's like I really want to go to a League One volleyball team, just manifesting that for us, just because I want to learn more about volleyball. I was really excited because in our women's roundup of the week that we do on social media, we talked about volleyball and we had a couple people say like, thank you for calling that out and representing that as such a big sport along with these other sports. So we really want to make sure we're focusing on the sports that maybe don't get talked about as much. So I'm just like really excited to see that emerge as well.
And then there's one more, but it's not a different sport, but it's a different league.
Yeah.
NCAA March Madness is coming up.
An All-Star Weekend?
Yes, NBA All-Star Weekend is coming up in February.
This is me still figuring out all my things.
That's okay, but like super important things that are going on in the basketball world. So
yeah, I'm excited
about all of
that.
that.
Who are you most excited about watching in March Madness?
I mean, my alma mater, USC, of course.
Yeah.
LSU, Iowa State, Iowa.
UConn?
Yeah, UConn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm excited to watch UConn.
Yeah, Texas. I mean, there's
Georgia.
some great teams out there. And
are you
some
proud
really
of
great
me?
talent.
I knew more teams.
You, girl.
I know.
Like,
girl, I've been watching.
I know.
I'm
You're
excited.
on your stuff.
I'm trying. I mean, like, I keep saying it. If women like me can research and pay attention, like, you know, I do worry that like people, you know, are like, well, she's never been into sports. She doesn't know anything about sport. So why would we take her seriously? But in the same vein, I'm like, yeah, but that's what curiosity is.
Yeah.
And I have that. And when I'm passionate about something, you know, I'm relentless.
Yeah.
And so
for sure.
I'm like so excited to learn about the ins and outs. Even your free agency videos that you've been doing, I think they're performing really well on our social because people want to hear the backstory and like what happens behind the scenes that doesn't
Totally.
get talked about that
Yeah.
much, you know? And like that's such a cool aspect of sport that you've lived, and I just really am excited to be able to talk more about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm a basketball player and I'm still learning stuff
No, I love
in
that.
this world. So
I love that, Jack.
research and just being curious and wanting to know more is like for everybody. It's not just you
Yeah.
because you don't play or you didn't play.
Love that. We have an epic guest coming on this podcast.
do.
I mean, literally fangirling all over the place over here. We have Sadie Lincoln, who's the founder and CEO of barre3. Started in Portland. She has an amazing story. So I think we
There's
should.
like 197 locations, I think.
No,
right now.
what did she say? Oh, yeah, 197. Good memory. Across 40 cities
Yeah.
in the US, and they're just continuing to grow. But this woman is the definition of power and brilliance and innovation and all the things
Yeah.
that we love and embody on
With
this
so much
podcast.
knowledge.
So,
Yeah.
let's roll on into that interview. Well, welcome, Sadie Lincoln.
Thank you.
We are so honored to have you on the podcast. Sadie, fun fact, is almost my neighbor here in Northeast Portland. But we're just so honored to have you on Click Clack and just really talk about fitness and women's issues and health, because you've been an icon for women for years in building community. I've taken your classes and they just make me feel happy. And so we're just really honored to have you.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
I feel right at home.
Admittedly, I have not taken barre3 yet, but I'm
Yet.
on my way. Yet. Yes. And I can't wait.
And wait till the end of this interview.
Yeah.
No, we are gonna
That's-
be.
yeah, I'm
we're gonna
inspired
be
already.
huge barre3 fans. Well, I already am a fan, but so Sadie, we want to talk a little bit about the business of bar. You've been around for over 15 years now. Close to
17.
17.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes.
You launched in 2008, right? Yeah. I listened to one of your launch stories on Guy Raz, How I Built This, and I was like, I literally was hooked that entire interview. Just hearing your backstory, what inspired you in this space. So what we're really interested to pick your brain on is kind of the future. Like, what does the future of barre3 look like? But let's start by like really talking a little bit about the past, because we do want to introduce people a little bit to kind of how you built this. So, you've built barre3 into nearly 200 franchises, right?
That's right. Yeah.
How many cities is it in now?
Gosh, I think the last I saw over 40 cities. And I will say every location is owned by a woman, which we're really proud of.
cool.
We welcome, yes, exactly.
That's amazing.
Welcome men to the table too, but we have a real women's focused company, and because of that, our owners are all women, and we franchise. So they really are our franchisees and our partners, and everything we've built together.
Wow. So you said something on one of your former interviews about, which really stood out to me as a founder and CEO, which was a lot of your earliest franchise owners were members of your community. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you spot or find the talent in kind of ownership and expansion? How, has that kind of been your secret sauce, is really leveraging the members?
Yeah, we call them clients. It's the same thing.
Okay.
But we've grown almost exclusively with barre3 clients or people who regularly are part of our community somehow. I think that's probably why we're 100% owned and operated by women, because I think 98% of our clients right now today are women.
Wow.
We've designed a community and a workout really thinking about women and what women need in different inflection points in her life.
Yeah.
And the community aspect of what we've built is really appealing to a lot of women, especially women who have had a professional career before, maybe were an athlete, and there was a life change, maybe became a mom, some kind of inflection point in her life where she was, and in those moments when you're kind of rocked is when you start to think about your values and what you want to do with your life moving forward. A lot of the women that come to us and say, hey, I want to open one of these are in that point in their life. It's like, okay, I did this career as a lawyer. I've done all these things in my life. I love barre3. I want to put this wisdom I've gained into this business of barre3 in my own community. And create something really special with it. And I really care about doing this with other women. I want to do something that's bigger than just myself. That's why you franchise, really, is to be a part of something bigger than you are. And we have such a clear vision, mission, and core values around creating community, around fighting loneliness, around women feeling honest and compassionate in their bodies. And because of that, like personal kind of connection that just happens in our classes, we have a natural sort of bench for people wanting to franchise.
That's
So-
beautiful.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really quick, just because I think it's important to ask the difference between bar and barre3. Could you explain that a little bit to us?
Sure. I'll start with what's similar. So bar started way in the early 70s in London. Lottie Burke was a dancer who injured herself in a car accident and therapeutically started to rehab her body at a ballet bar and developed the Lottie Burke method, which turned into bar here in the States in the 90s. And that heritage was very much tied to a specific sequence of exercises. And you'll hear things like long line, lean dancer lines. And it was very much about conforming to that sequence of exercises.
Okay.
At a ballet bar, therapeutic isometric holds a small range of motion, and which is highly effective. So we do have that. We have the isometric hold and the small range of motion. Great for endurance, great for strength. And it's low injury and great way to rehab your body. So we've pulled that in, really revolutionized the bar space because we have so much more variety than that. We've pulled from, when I first opened in August of 2008, our tagline was where ballet bar meets yoga and Pilates.
Right.
So it was bar plus yoga
Yep.
plus Pilates over the years because our whole thing, and that's what the 3 stands for, is a symbol of balance, which we're always practicing to work towards, is being tied to science, women's health and wellness science, and basing our workouts and what we learn from our clients that they need and evolving our workout over time to meet their needs versus being tied to a heritage of exercise.
Interesting.
So that's what actually differentiates us from a lot of concepts,
Right.
Including yoga. We're not tied to a yoga heritage either. We're not tied to a classic Pilates heritage. But we do pull cardio, strength, mindfulness, functional movement together with a women's focused lens.
Wow. Okay, now the barre3 is making sense to me. The 3, like combining the 3, which those
Yeah.
3 workouts are some of my biggest loves.
Right.
I had a best friend who was a professional ballet growing up, or a ballerina growing up, and just watching her, I never felt like I could do that. But then when I did bar, I could totally see myself doing some of those moves, and I loved the variety. I also have to say the playlists were fire. Like that just added so much to the experience. Playlists were, and it was just like the whole combination. You just really felt like, I think for me, when I was in those classes, and I mentioned to you, my sister was a barre3 instructor, you really feel like you're truly part of a women's tribe. Like when you're at these classes, and there is nothing like that. You know, I just got chills even saying that because it brought me back to that experience. And I think, you know, one thing I was really curious to talk to you about too was, and I've heard you talk about this, is, you know, being a mom, and I've got young kids, it's very, very hard to find that time to go to these classes. And I'm now in a stage where I'm starting to be like, oh, maybe I can come up and do classes again. So what advice would you give to moms who have young kids in terms of just thinking about like how to find your community and how, whether it is barre3 or fitness in general, like how would you encourage them to think about that?
I think first be compassionate with yourself. You're in those busy years. I call them the busy years. And you're
I
not
haven't hit those yet.
They're real.
Yeah.
They're real. My babies are 18 months apart. They're now 19 and 20.
Wow.
But,
Me and my sister are 18 months apart.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Libby and I are 20,
Yeah.
so
Oh, cool.
yeah,
So, you
yeah.
know, yeah, it's nice as a parent because they're kind of going through
Right.
everything at the same
Right.
time in a way.
Wow.
But then they leave the house all of a sudden. But those years, I look back on those years and just the importance of being compassionate and knowing you're not alone. And it is a season of life, and it's okay to not work out every day. You know, I think the compassion part is really important, combined with a curiosity of like, you know, what do I need right now? Like, what kind of community will lift me up and support me for this season of my life, who I am as a woman today? And don't settle for anything but that. You know, if you go into a class and you don't feel that, there are so many options nowadays, right? To find that place where you really feel connected. And we hear it all the time. I mean, when we go and we try to get testimonials from our clients over the years, you know, a lot of times my marketing team is trying to get like physical results, which we definitely deliver on that.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to get that out of people because they're always like, I met my best friends there. And it's always about their friends.
Right.
And
I'm so here for that.
so there, and this is not just barre3. I mean, most boutique fitness concepts, we all share in this like fighting lonely thing. And I really do think, I guess my advice is there's something for everyone, and to be curious about that, and keep looking until you find your thing.
I feel like I could relate to that a bit just as a former athlete, and after I stopped playing basketball, wanting to find that community and wanting to find a class or a coach that was telling me what to do. Because my whole life I've been told what to do by my coaches. So I think for me, it was just such a like sense of relief when I found, you know, my studio, my community. And I was able to really just like kind of transform, just kind of transform into what I wanted to be at life after sport.
Yeah.
And I just, found so much happiness in that, and just like the community, like I said, the camaraderie, just like it was everything for me. And
It's so, don't you think that's so important?
Oh, it's so, I mean, it's
Because
so
there's
important.
a high depression, right? When athletes
Identity
retire.
crisis,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
Same thing with dancers. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of our instructors were Division I athletes, or like very accomplished athletes.
Oh, that's so cool.
We hear it all the time. We hear exactly what you're saying all the time. Maybe not at your level, but very accomplished athletes or dancers. And they age out.
Yeah.
And that mindset of trying to hold on to the youth and hold on to what was, instead of being present and honest with what is.
Yeah.
Is a beautiful moment if you can lean into it and you can find the right group exercise or the right practice, I will say, to give you permission to do that, because I'm sure you've noticed there's so much growth in that moment.
Absolutely.
Right? But it can also be very devastating.
Yeah.
I've also heard that with injury, especially people who identify with being physical.
Yeah.
I relate to this. When I first opened my studios, I had chronic low back issues that were taking me down and not allowing me to do what I am meant to do on this planet, which is teach classes. Wow. And it was so humbling and so hard and so depressing that I felt like my body was betraying me.
Oh.
And I remember this turning point. It's actually the most beautiful thing. That pain turned to such beauty, because that's when we started to really talk as a company about modifications, and that we don't need to go do that deep squat. You don't need to do all these exercises to achieve. You can modify and listen to your body with love.
Yeah.
And also trust your body. When you feel that pain point in your body, instead of rejecting it and pushing it away and being angry at it, honor it.
That's one thing I love about studio workouts, is like always having a modification. I think that's so important, because not everyone's at the same level.
And
that's a really good
and
point.
Even each day is different, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And everyone's dealing with something different. Like for me, I've had 10 knee surgeries. I've had 5 ACL tears. So everything for me is modified, and it's so, so I really can feel that for sure.
Sadie, do you, we were actually really curious, because we were talking about, like, obviously one of the topics we really want to get into is around the growth of women's sports and that happening within the cultural zeitgeist, and how that's going to impact the future of how girls play sport. Because we know girls drop out of sport at a faster rate than boys. So we were talking about, knowing that Jacki loves fitness. I love fitness. I wasn't a pro athlete, but there's a future where the two are intrinsically linked, right? Fitness and sport. But it feels like Jacki brought up a great point, that when you're in a pro sport, they kind of control everything you do. But for so many athletes after sport, like, that's where there's such an opportunity. So you saying that a lot of your the coaches clients were former athletes, I think that's really fascinating. And do you see that growing even more, as far as people who might be future franchise owners, or what's kind of the point of view there?
I haven't really thought about if it's growing. I think women being empowered in our bodies is growing. And one indicator of that, which is amazing, is that we're starting to focus on studying women's bodies, with our health and wellness in mind. And then with that data, it's so important. So many of us know this intuitively, right? But to have the data to support that women need different workouts. We
Yeah.
need to train different than men.
right.
And I think, with that kind of momentum, that I think more and more, appreciation and support and excitement around women in both sport and fitness will improve.
Yes.
It won't be such a fight for women to feel good as an athlete and feel good as the woman in fitness. It will be, we'll have better options. And so there's definitely a trend towards that. Certainly, and what I'm really attuned to is aging women. I'm 52 years old. I'm in that place of perimenopause meets menopause. And
Let me just say, you
I
look
am-
fantastic. You look so good.
we need to
well,
definitely be doing bar
Yeah.
more.
This is 50, but this is 52.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
50, for me. And what's going on inside of my body is really what I'm paying attention to. And there are massive changes that happen in this stage in your life.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful that in this moment there's emerging support for me right now. And people I can follow and books I can read. And but I will say even my physician and people I talk to, they don't really have that much information. It's all
Yeah.
kind of emerging.
Yeah.
We don't really know that much.
Such an opportunity.
There's such an opportunity for growth, but the good news is we're starting. There's initiatives out there, including the Women's Health Initiative that Dr. Jill Biden has is one of her platforms around funding research and getting that out to all of us so that we can design programs and fitness concepts and sports concepts for women at all inflection points of their lives, so we don't age out.
Yeah.
Right, that we can keep going. I think strength is a big focus right now.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, it's so awesome. I'm hearing so much strong is in, skinny is out. All these statements.
Well,
That it's important to get strong for
yeah,
a woman.
no,
you
for
know?
sure. I think being strong, as you get older too, is the most crucial thing in fitness. Just
Yeah.
because our muscles deteriorate more quickly, I
And
guess.
our bones.
Yeah, and our bones. So
Yeah.
I think just like you said, that muscle, I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Strength, endurance, mobility,
Yeah.
all of that is for quality of life. And I am hearing that more is that people are exercising to live into their bodies and live into their lives.
Right.
Versus
love
exercising
that.
to chase an ideal, of something they used to be, like bouncing back, which I hate when people say that when they have a baby. There's a fitness concept, bounce back. That's ridiculous. That's an impossible
I'm never
goal.
gonna say that.
Oh my
again.
gosh, Sadie, I have so many thoughts on that.
Right? It sets us up for failure.
So much
you can't
failure.
bounce back. It's literally impossible. You can't time travel. You also can't bounce into the future, into an after picture of an ideal
Totally.
that's made up that we're told we're supposed to look like to be winning, to be successful, to be achieving, to be attractive, whatever the to be is. It's really, I think there is so much momentum, thank goodness. And the narrative is shifting towards exercising to be present in our bodies.
Yeah.
I love
Honest in
that.
our bodies. And that's, what we've been doing for 17 years. So it does feel like
You were ahead of
to
the
your
curve.
point. Yeah, but we're just getting started.
Totally.
We're just getting started.
Well, even I've been following, so we both worked in the Nike Sport Research Lab. So science is something I care deeply, deeply about. And I'm fascinated by what I learned is just the opportunity for more women's research. And so I've been actually just really keeping an eye on what women are investing in women's health. So Dr. Jill Biden, as you mentioned, Melinda Gates, these amazing, sorry, I just got chills because this is something I feel so passionate about because when I was growing up, these were not things we talked about. And we need women who have assets and resources and influence, such as yourself and others, who are creating the next pathway for future women, where we can talk about periods, we can talk about sports bras and support. We just interviewed Jenny Wynn from the Sports Bra. We talked a lot about the bra as sort of this used to be this strange stigmatized thing, and now it's no, it's a critical piece of equipment for women in sport. I said I can run because I'm a marathon runner. I can run. I could probably, it hurt like hell, but I could probably run a marathon without shoes. I could not do it without a bra. And so I was like, we need to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I just want to ask you about, because I have this theory and apparently it's been studied, so I'm really curious to go look into it. But I actually found my performance and my endurance was better post-pregnancy than pre. And I've been running for 25 years. I did track, I was a cheerleader, I did dance, but I have never felt stronger than after having 2 children. And I think there's such a room for research in that space.
What do you think it is? What's your intuition?
Well, I'll give you my because I'm not a scientist, but I think the psychology, the psychological experience of having a child, whether you birth a child or not, like raising a child, right? Like it just makes you stronger in every aspect of your life. Everything gets harder. So you have to fight harder every day. And I think that just pushes me, like that grit, when I apply that to either my work or my fitness routine and I just have never felt better about my body. Which is strange because like you said, most time there's this like strange stigma of, oh, we need to bounce back, or my body didn't look the same, or I have new stretch marks, or whatever it may be. But I love my body post-pregnancy. Like I celebrate it, and I would love for more women to be doing that.
Love that.
Same.
I feel like we could have a whole conversation on this. I was just talking to my husband about this. When I was pregnant with our first daughter, that is when I had an eating disorder for 10 years straight. And I was silently struggling, quietly. Nobody knew until kind of recent. I've just kept, it's been my secret. And I was in the fitness industry, and I was a leader in the fitness industry at the time, pre-barre3, way before barre3. And I just had this quiet shame that I wasn't enough. And I was working out and disassociating with my body when I worked out. Like I'd be on the treadmill, counting calories, trying to get to the marker, to get to the thing, to look this way I needed to look, and taking the supplements, doing the formulas, and just on this
Vicious cycle.
Vicious cycle. Yeah, exactly. And when I got pregnant, it was the first time in my life I didn't disassociate with my body anymore. And when I moved, when I was exercising, I started to move from my body and what my body was intuitively teaching me. Because what a miraculous thing to have grow a baby, right? And I was honoring my changing body in the moment versus fighting it.
Wow.
To be something other than it was. And for me, in that moment, I learned what I call body wisdom.
Wow.
Which I think whether you're, however you identify, it's an important thing to learn.
Yeah.
And we have this gift for those of us who choose to have a child to like have that moment to learn about ourselves and learn about our bodies. And I remember in that moment, I was doing yoga at home because nobody was modifying in the studios. And I started to modify. I didn't even use that word, but I just started to move intuitively based on what my growing body what needed me to do.
You just have to change your movements. It's just what you have to do.
And it's so beautiful because I'm like, I'm trusting you. Like I am listening to you, right? This body I get. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, Sadie, you are not failing fitness. Fitness is failing you.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
We're all being failed right now.
Yeah.
And it was like a seed. And it wasn't until like 2 years later, maybe, that barre3 happened. My third baby, barre3. But it really did start in that moment. So I love that you brought that up. I think that we do get stronger mentally and emotionally. But I would like to see the research too, because I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more.
We actually have a friend who's in the science community, and I was talking to her about this. We went skiing the other day, and we're sitting on the lift. I'm like, I have to ask this question. She's like, oh, that's been researched. I'm like, what? Where? So I want to find it, and I'll send it to you if I find it.
Great.
But it's there's just so much more, though. Like I'm also interested in more longitudinal studies where you actually study the woman before she has a baby and then after she has a baby. Like, how does that change? The other thing I think, sorry, I was getting kind of emotional when you're talking because I'm really inspired how you talk about your own things that you were maybe fighting your body about. And I had an eating disorder for years as well. And it started in high school. And my obsession was around eating. So I would count every calorie. I wouldn't let a French fry touch my lips, which is crazy. Like, you're a high school kid, your friends are going to Taco Bell and all these places. And then I use exercise as a tool to obsess, like, oh, I have to lose weight. I have to be skinnier. And I have a naturally very athletic body. And so I feel like I too kept it a secret for a long time, and I would like kind of brush it off. And I think it was after my pregnancy that I truly look in the mirror every morning and I say, you birthed 2 babies. You get up every morning and you help keep these babies alive. You fight for them. You raise them. Like, you are enough. and celebrate that inner beauty. And so I really appreciate that you were willing to share that story with us, because I don't think we talk about that enough as women. There's a lot of shame in eating disorders, and it took me a very long time to even admit it to myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
and I think that's why I always say, people are like, I was like thinking, like when Jacki was like, oh, you don't look 50, you look amazing. Like I get that too sometimes, when people are like, oh, you still look like you're in your 20s. I'm like, I don't want to be in my 20s. I want to be in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s, because that means we're living and we're growing into that age, and we should be so lucky.
Yeah. I still appreciate the compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got you guys.
You can tell me I look like I'm 22, Jack.
You guys look great. I'm just calling it what it is.
But I just think it's amazing. So anyway, that was kind of a long ramble, but I'm really inspired that you're willing to share that, because as a leader for women in fitness, like for you to share that so publicly is
It's so not powerful. Okay that it's been normalized for girls to have eating disorders, for anybody to have eating disorders. I think the fastest growing sector of people with eating disorders are male identifying people. So it's not just women, but it's certainly mostly women. That's the fastest growing new sector. But it's not okay. And it's all of our responsibility to change the narrative, so that when these girls are born into this world, they are taught and reinforced what they are born with, which is love of their body. And that's not stripped away from them. And we've all learned from the conditioning of societal messaging that our bodies need to look a certain way to belong. And that's like at the core of humanity, is wanting to belong. Totally. It is not your fault you had an eating disorder. It is not my fault I had an eating disorder. That is a symptom of something greater, right? Yeah, and so that is really what drives all of us at barre3. That's why I want to grow a big company. That's why I want to teach. I want to reach millions of people, and specifically women who share this. So together we can start to create a new narrative, a louder narrative, and shift the society, so that we are actually empowered and not dismissed and pushed down and made to literally be smaller. We're making progress, and it feels really good. It does. I think it's important to know progress we're making.
I think it's super interesting too, because so my mom is 75, so I think obviously that generation, the way they parented was very different than how you and Lauren have parented your children. So like, for example, I remember like my mom growing up just like always saying like, oh, I look fat today, or or something like that, very body shaming towards herself. And like me and my sister, we would always hear her say that and always talk about her weight and always talk about like, not wanting to eat this or not wanting to eat that, or I look fat, I don't look in this. And I think like, my mom, I love my mom to death, but I do think that those things kind of rubbed off on Jonna and I a little bit too. And we've talked about that, just like, some of like the body imaging like struggles that we've dealt with a little bit, are probably a little bit stemmed from like my parents' generation and how they raised us. Yeah. Not that it was intentional or anything, but it's just like, I think it's so crazy like how vastly different like parenting is now about like body imaging and stuff like that.
It's definitely improved.
Yeah.
It's definitely improved. Yeah. I do think words matter.
Right.
Whether it's a parent or a teacher in your class.
For sure.
Or a coach.
Yeah.
Or a script that we're listening to on our favorite TV show. Words matter. The words we choose to describe women, to describe women's bodies, and anything having to do with this subject is, deeply impactful. And really, we spent a lot of time on words at barre3. Like in our classes, we use words about being powerful, being strong, noticing honestly how your body feels, sensation cues versus physical cues, like what it's going to look like.
Love that.
Or any kind of
I just got
attachment
chills.
to a
That's
result.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Just that frame of mind, like that little.
It really matters. Yeah.
Wow. So touching on that, Jack, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was also a very consistent narrative in my household. Words like fat to me are very triggering now. And even I have tried to really shift the language I use with my daughter, because, and my husband will even sometimes correct me because I still struggle where I'll like look in the mirror and I'll say something. I'm like, oh man, I don't want her to hear that. Or so are there words that, you can think of that you might help us inspire us on of like, instead of fat, like, how do we, like, it's strong, right? Like fat. I mean, I don't want to relate those two words, but like, how do we talk to our girls? Like what are the words we should use to talk about empowerment?
Well, I think in general, there's no reason to talk about the shape of our bodies.
Love that.
And I mean, that if it comes up, then it's just an honest expression of it without judgment, good or bad, right? I think that's important. It's just, taking away that judgment is really important when we talk about that, and more about like, how did that feel? What was the game like today for you? Were you frustrated? Did you feel successful?
Right.
Going back to asking like questions that inspire all of us to look inward and be honest with what's happening for ourselves in our bodies.
Yes.
Right. And it's true in fitness too. It's true in, in a class I taught this morning, in North Williams. I still teach.
I'm coming to
two classes a week. I love teaching.
The fact that you teach as a founder is so awesome.
It's my favorite thing to do. It's my craft. I absolutely love it. I'll teach till I cannot teach anymore.
Oh.
But I was talking about it today, and I was talking about the power of listening to your body and just simply noticing your body, and specifically sensations in your body. And that is a practice of trusting your body. And I think that is always what I would veer towards. How does that feel? So how I used it in class today, we had just got done with a cardio burst, and we were pausing for a moment. I had everybody bring their hands to their chest, and I said, feel your heart beating. Notice that energy. And I mentioned to them that you can take this noticing practice right into your day. And I told them in class, which I'll tell you right now, the day before I was in a meeting with our team, and it's kind of a heated time because we're talking about growth and strategy. And it always, this time of year, always gets me a little like anxious, but I don't even know it. And I noticed my heart was beating in the meeting, but it was a calm meeting, but my anxiety was like, boom, 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 boom.
Wow.
And I felt like I kind of went like that during the meeting. I felt my heart beating, and it was just such a moment of magic for me because it allowed me to be honest with myself, take a deep breath, get centered, and remind myself and the group, this is a moment in time.
Right now.
Yeah.
I just took a deep breath.
You can do it all the time, but it's like we forget to listen to our bodies.
Yeah.
We forget to like, our bodies are giving us these cues all the time. And we get up here and we get thinking into the future or dreading the past. And, I think that's the most powerful thing anybody can do.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, this kind of leads me to another question. Like, how do you not compare yourself to someone else? Because I feel like when we talk about body image and like,
such a good question.
Me, as a former athlete, I was constantly comparing what I look like to other athletes and wanting to look a certain way and feeling like I needed to look that way in order to perform better. And then even just in, my everyday like fitness journey and where I, work out, I always feel like I'm looking at someone and wanting that. Right.
Yeah.
So what is your advice to people like not to compare themselves to other people?
Yeah, I do too. Right. We all do. Again, my practice is noticing. Just the fact that you notice that is so powerful. Like, oh, I'm comparing myself to someone else.
Yeah.
Just notice it compassionately without judgment. And I think just that moment to pause and notice, reflect that, oh, I'm comparing myself to someone else, and then come back to yourself and say, what do I need right now? What is best for me right now? Just over and over. And one of my friends, Don DePani, he's a mindfulness teacher. He gave me a one-liner that I've said a million times.
I need to write this down.
Yeah, I'm like,
no, this is a good one, and you'll remember
we'll have it
it
on videos.
Okay, that's true. Forgot that was there.
That's so handy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is we practice, we become. Whatever it is we practice. So you can practice
So true.
feeling less than and comparing yourself to other people, and you become really good at feeling less than.
Right.
Or you can practice being compassionate and remembering that you don't need to compare yourself. and that you are whole as you are. And you can become really good at that.
Yeah.
So it's a choice. Whatever it is we practice, we become.
Yeah.
And that was an aha for me because I realized I was practicing so many things I didn't want to become, like a distracted mother, right?
Over here.
like shame spiraling about my chronic low back issues.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah.
Compare, like feeling lonely, like I didn't fit in, you know? And I got really good at being lonely, being a distracted mom, shaming my body for having aches and pains, you know? And then I turned this narrative, I turned the story, and that's a practice. You have to practice it.
Yeah.
Unlike anything else.
That literally is like screaming to me right now because we talk about this, or we have had conversations about just being distracted. And, you know, I just took a really big leap, left corporate America after 15 years. It was so scary, so hard. But, and that quote you just shared was really resonated with me because I just felt myself like just going through the motions at one point. And I wasn't like, I was still really passionate about my work, but I just like at the end of the night, I was like, what did I even do today? Like I couldn't remember what my kids talked to me about. And it was just the grind, you know, it was just all trying to do it all. And I think, you know, as a female founder, you know, and we're just now female founders too in a different way.
Yeah,
like what advice would you give to women that change course in their careers and, you know, kind of taking from this mindfulness and this practice? Because I think there's a lot there that can apply not just to fitness and how you resonate with your body, but also like your career. So I'm just curious.
Gosh, you know, the first thing I reflected on when you said, I was like, did I even talk to my kids today? Like that whole distracted thing. When you wake up at 3 a.m. and like it's awful and your head's spinning or like I remember me like scrolling through like Facebook or something. Doom scrolling and being like, I remember one day just stopping, this is back when Facebook was big, and just stopping. I literally said it out loud. I'm like, what am I searching for? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what in the world am I doing? Those moments are such gifts. And to like, it's hard to see it in the moment, but like when you're in pain, when you're in the deepest struggle or like that rabbit hole, just try to remember like this has purpose. This dark, hard moment has purpose. Be curious about it. That will lead you to something really powerful, like starting your own business, right? If you had not noticed that you were on autopilot, and not really living fully into your life, you wouldn't have had the courage to make this change. And I think a lot of people push it away and they don't notice it. And that's the saddest thing ever because we don't want to face the pain. We don't want to face the discomfort. And discomfort is the catalyst for change. It's true in the body. If we don't like tax our muscles, they're not going to get stronger.
Right.
If we don't tax our questioning about our lives and how we're living, we're not going to do better and grow in that kind of that what we call brave space. And so, yeah, that would be my advice is don't push the dark away. Like look at it, listen to it, and wonder about it.
So I'm sure you have so many questions. I just have one more follow-up
you're
to
good.
that. But, you know, so I've just obviously been researching kind of the women founder space and look, because, you know, we're talking to investors, we're doing all sorts of things to really explore like what could a business like this really become. And I've learned a lot in the process. And one of the things I learned is that only 13% of founders are women in the kind of the startup space. And so women have amazing ideas. Like women control more than 50% of the pocketbook in this country. How do we get more women to bet on ourselves? And you know, I'm betting on us and I'm excited about that. There's also like a ton of emotions that go into that, but how do we get more women to bet on themselves and not just brush it off?
Well, I think it's that, you know, you can't be it till you see it. And so more means more. And that requires, again, the theme of getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And being wildly curious why there aren't more women board members. I think I always start at the top. The people with the most privilege and the most power, right? And having this conversation with them. Like, let's get uncomfortable and put women on boards. Private equity, angel investors, you know, people who have the power, the privilege of investing in the next generation of business. There is no question women are problem solvers. There is no question we are creators. And we have so much to offer when it comes to our capitalism. Like, it's
100%.
not
Right.
just about solving the world's issues. It's also about generating exciting businesses
Yeah.
that are profitable. And I think, you know, we need to keep at it, right? Keep
Fight
doing
that
it.
fight.
Keep showing that we're not just creating something that's cute or solving a nice problem or that's a hobby. That's definitely been the case in the fitness industry forever. Was, oh, you know, it's kind of like a hobby. She
Yeah.
teaches these group classes,
Yeah.
you know, aerobics. Like, it's not like, it was sort of this brushed off side, and then there was the gyms, the real
Yeah.
fitness.
Yeah.
And we've really shown our way on that front for the last 20 years. Boutique fitness
Sure have.
has by and large been started by women, not necessarily grown by women. So I will say that most of my contemporaries who started boutique concepts have left. Once private equity comes in, or once they've been acquired, the founding women
Yeah.
usually, which my hat's off to them if it's like a decision, like I'm going to retire
Yeah.
and
Sure,
have personal
yeah.
wealth. That's amazing. That's very empowered of
Yeah.
women. But I do wonder about it. I'm like, why aren't there more women that I can look to at this level
Yeah.
who are running their organizations at the size I'm at?
Yeah.
There, to your point, there aren't very many. And, you know, I think we all have a role in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and go ahead, Jack.
No,
Sorry, I'm
no,
asking so many questions.
No,
you
you're
go.
fine. I was just curious, like, back when you know, started in 2008, I believe, right? Like, what was your journey? What were the risks that you took to start barre3? And, like, from, like, I guess a business lens, like, how did that happen?
Well, I grew up in the fitness industry, so I worked for a large gym chain, 24-hour fitness, for 11
okay.
years.
I was a member for a long time there.
Okay, yeah, yeah, for like $7
Very
a month.
familiar,
Yeah,
Surely.
yeah.
$7 a month.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like you can be a member forever.
Yeah, seriously.
It's
That's all my parents could afford at the time. So
yeah,
that
it's
was,
a brilliant
you know,
it's a brilliant business model.
Yeah, it is,
And I learned a ton working
Yeah.
for the gyms, and we grew from 25 gyms to 430 while I was there, and I worked in the headquarters and learned a ton. So I knew a lot about fitness, and I went into our first studio. My husband and I are co-founders. We had a plan to grow our studio into a chain, and we knew we were going to franchise, and we knew we were going to franchise with women.
Okay.
The risk we took is we self-funded except for one small investment by the founder and then CEO of 24 Fitness, Mark Masteroff. He had it small. He's to date the only investor we've had. We've grown on
Oh,
cash
wow,
flow.
that's amazing.
I know.
Yes, but we sold our
Inspiration to
house.
us.
Yeah. One, and at the time, I was running on adrenaline. I had nothing but optimism. I was so sure of myself.
Yeah.
It actually kind of amazes me. I get asked this question a lot, and honestly, that wasn't the moment where I was fearful. I just knew in my bones it was right. I wasn't worried about being broke. I grew up a poor hippie kid, so that was very familiar to me. We had a little small rental. We went down to one car. We sold our house. And we put everything into barre3. Wow. And, it did help that it was immediately buzzy and exciting. And more importantly to me was fighting lonely. Like, I was just so thrilled I had a community.
Yeah.
And I was so thrilled that people were acknowledging me for something I was trying to heal within myself. Other people were saying me too. It was the first time I didn't feel lonely.
Yeah.
So that overrided any concern I had with the business.
Yeah.
And probably because of that, that's why we're so successful, because we were just so all in. It was later when I was scaling and all the growth pains and the growing pains, that's when it got, there's been lots of ups and downs growing this company. I'm thankful for all of them, but it definitely hasn't been like flow state for 17 years.
Totally. So like like being the founder of Barre, were you like an active yoga like member, and then Pilates and that? Like, what is your history there?
Yeah, I taught group exercise starting when I was 19 or 20, I can't remember, in college. So group exercise always. And I taught all different formats, everything you can imagine. I was an avid participant of yoga, and I went through a YogaWorks instructor training program.
Oh, yeah.
And during that program, that's when I decided I was going to break out. And at the time I was teaching at the Daily Method, which is the barre studio.
Okay.
One of the first barre studios in the Bay Area. And I was starting to see, I really like barre, but I want to combine it with this yoga thing.
Yeah.
I want to add a little more Pilates influence. And I was starting to figure out and have the courage to think, maybe I can do this on my own.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, what an innovator
Yeah,
to be
seriously.
able to look at all these different movement patterns
Yeah.
to bring this new solution.
Yeah, I
to
think,
women.
and some of it was my experience in group exercise, certainly, and my wisdom in the fitness industry. But I think my superpower to this day, and this is what I would say to anybody listening to this who has an idea in their head, my superpower was solving a problem for a data point of one, me. Like, I didn't do a ton of research. I trusted what problem I was experiencing, and I developed a brand around healing myself. And
Freaking
you'll
cool.
hear that all the time with entrepreneurs. So now I realize that I'm not unique.
Yeah.
Like, most great things come from people like saying, I really wanted this thing and it didn't exist. And so I created it because I needed it.
Right.
That's so inspirational because, you know, I went to Jacki. I don't know. We laughed about starting a podcast like a year ago. We were like, we got something funny and like fun. We're come from really different walks of life. But I realized I kept asking myself, how come this year, which was 2024, when we saw women's sports really emerge, I said, why do I care about watching sports now? I've never cared about watching professional sports before. And we talk about that a lot. And I think it's because, to your point, like, I finally see myself in a lot of these women. I'm seeing women show up and be feminine if that's how they identify, and like be honored for that power, honored for, you know, like we talk about Angel Reese a lot, showing up at the Met Gala and her, you know, being completely styled and then going and like just being so fierce on the court. And I think that multidimensional woman is what we have to show more girls, is that you don't have to be one thing. And so that really speaks to me because, you know, we've had to like build our business plan and like make sure we did our research. But at the end of the day, it was more instinctual than anything of like, we just feel like there's a gap here. So that just really speaks
You
to me.
feel and you know.
Yeah, you feel and you know.
Like I'm always like, I had a knowing inside of me.
Yeah. And I was like,
that's powerful.
I'm like, if I want to watch more women's sports, and I'm like your girlie who did not care about watching professional sports ever, I'd like have to go to, you know, Super Bowl games. I'm like, I'm here for the halftime show. But now I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch Unrivaled. Like, I can't wait. And I'm like, there's got to be more women like me.
Yeah.
Really
You
cool.
know?
It's
So,
really cool.
and we're just at the beginning of that. So,
Which is crazy that it's 2025 and
Right?
we're at the beginning of
I
it.
know.
Right?
Same thing with women's science on
Right.
our bodies. Like, but there's, you know, now's the time. Let's go.
Let's get that infrastructure in
Yeah.
place. Let's get more women billionaires investing in women's health, like what Michelle Kang has done for the NWSL, and some of these other, Melinda Gates. Like, these women are showing up. And I think, I mean, you have shown up to support women. We need for more. That's why, like, we were so honored to have you on this podcast, because we're like, these are the messages we want to get out to our communities, our millennial moms, our Gen Z. And I know your brand does that as well, but it's like, the more we keep saying it, the more we're going to manifest it.
Yeah. More is more.
Yeah.
More is more.
More is more. Yeah.
That might be the title of this episode.
Yeah, I like that. So what's one piece of advice you'd wish you'd had received when you started barre3?
The thing I wish I did earlier is believe in myself enough to seek out people who could help me, who really supported the vision I had around women's health and wellness, who had a worldview outside of what I was doing, who could help me grow it. You know, I wish I had more support from women who had done it, or men who could really like help me find the right operators, help me find the right marketers, help me find the right real estate development team. You know, all these pieces around growing a concept. We did quite well.
Right.
But honestly, we did it inside out.
Yeah.
We did not have that worldview that I now know exists. I didn't believe that. I think I just ultimately didn't believe in myself enough to know that people like that would want to work for me. You know,
That's fascinating.
And yeah.
I mean, I think, and maybe it was just because I was so damn busy. I just didn't even have time to look up and think about that, like be really strategic that way. But I really believe that all women that start their own businesses deserve to have a circle of support around them. Even if you don't think you're big enough to have a board of directors, you can put together your own kind of board of advisors and helpers and mentors. And even if it's people you follow or you read, you know, you don't even have to know them, but like, you know, having that support to help you always remember to look outside of yourself, to always remember to grow bigger than you think is possible.
Yes.
I think, you know, we're not groomed as men are, I think, to be in that like network.
Yeah.
You know, we're not invited around the table as much as changing, but like, it's relatively new to have like networking events for women and where women feel included.
For what it's worth,
Clubs,
I feel like
so-
you could hang at any table.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
We
Seriously.
If I'm invited.
Yeah.
I need to know.
You fit in at any table.
But don't
girl.
you? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And so do both of you. But don't you even think like, what are the tables? Who are the tables?
Right.
What
I mean-
rooms are those? Like sometimes I
Yeah.
don't even know what rooms are available. And I hope that's changing for sure.
Our mentality right now is, because I think especially when you're in corporate America, you're kind of groomed around hierarchy. It's like, oh, you got to be like really strategic about who you reach out here or there. And now that we're like doing our own thing, I'm like, we're just gonna, like, you miss every shot you don't take.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
really the mentality I'm trying to take right now, because
Yeah.
I've reached out to people that I would have never had the guts to. And so I think that's such great advice, because it's really scary to believe in yourself enough to just be like, let me try this. Let me just like ask. Like that's
100%.
step one, is just ask.
Yes.
But yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Okay, so who are 3 women in like the sports industry or in the fitness industry that you look up to?
Okay. 3 women.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
If you can't pick 3, just
Okay.
pick one.
I'm just gonna the ones that pop into my head.
Yeah, for sure.
Abby Wambach.
Oh,
But
love
I'm
it.
not gonna lie, a lot of it has to do with Glennon Doyle.
Oh yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I do. I love the Wolf Pack, and I love what she stands for, and the two of them together in their podcast, You Can Do Hard Things. They got me through some dark hours during COVID. Honestly,
I
like
hear
I
you.
felt like, in fact, I have a fun story about them.
Oh yeah.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
I read Glennon Doyle's book Untamed. Is that right? Am I saying
Yeah.
Untamed.
Yeah.
It's Untamed.
Yeah.
Great. She's such a good writer. And so did some of our franchise owners. I mean, we're all, it's like this, sisterhood. We're so similar. And one of our franchise owners, she knew I loved this book. It had just come out. And one of her instructors did a tweet about it, and they, linked Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach, and they responded.
Oh,
Love that.
And did
So
a
cool.
virtual book club with us.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they invited me and they were in Arlington, Virginia, and
Oh my
my
gosh, that's
barre3
so cool.
Arlington, and they knew I loved them.
Yeah.
And so we all got on this Zoom call, and they generously spent like over an hour with us, and we got to talk to them. So
amazing.
I do feel like close to Abby Wambach.
As you should.
She's one.
Such a good one.
Fitness. I mean, I'm gonna go old school, because I really feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of people who were the first women in fitness, and Jane Fonda is one of them.
I was gonna say Jane Fonda.
Okay, tell me more, because admittedly, I don't know who it is.
So Jane Fonda in the 80s, she's an actor and an activist.
Okay.
And an accomplished activist and actor. Started an aerobics generation, and she had these things called VCRs, and do you know
I know
the
those.
tapes
Yeah,
that went in?
of course I know
those. So we would do at-home workouts, my mom and I. Those were the
Okay.
first ones, and that's how I got introduced to this entire industry.
Yeah.
But
So
just reflecting back on some of those women, that in the beginning it was kind of cottage industry, but she made it a thing. She made it an industry, and really did pave the path for so many women to come. I think we've really revolutionized it since then, but it started with her. So she's someone I deeply respect. I would love to meet her someday. In case she's listening, you just never know.
Jane, we're gonna
Yeah.
tweet you.
We're gonna-
Actually, not
we're gonna
tweet
tag
you,
her.
We're gonna threads you.
She did just come out with a new workout series. She's, I think, in her 80s now.
Oh, wow, that's
and
incredible.
So, again, those are the two that popped right into my head. Serena Williams.
Yeah.
I mean,
How could
I
you
feel
not
like
love
it's
her?
yeah.
Yeah.
I could go on and on, but
Can I just mention? You're probably familiar with Sarah Blakely, Spanx.
Oh, I love
yeah,
her.
yeah, big fan too over
Yeah.
here. Her Sneaks launch like really inspired me, and Jane Fonda's involved in Sneaks, I think. So you should go to her
that's fun.
Instagram page, because she's like wearing Sneaks. It's really cute.
Okay. They're the high heel sneakers.
Yeah, they're really fun.
I saw those live in the wild at a conference.
You
recently.
did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so curious to try them, because
Yeah.
we talk about this a lot. Like, our branding is the heel and the sneaker because we kind of represent the different, because I love to wear heels. So I was like, well, that's like the merging of Jacki and Lauren right there.
Right. Literally.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really want, like, as we look out the next 5 to 10 years, right? We have LA 28 coming up. It's a huge moment. It's going to be really interesting. Obviously, we're all thinking about our friends in LA right now, and then the climate and the environment. From what there was a little bit of research I did, it said that by 2030, the boutique fitness industry is meant to be around 75 billion, which is insane growth.
I love that data. I don't know if I've heard that exact number, but I'm going with it.
Well, I was just really curious because I'm like, I want to know what the growth rate is for this industry because it's, as to your point, it's just boomed. And so from what I understand it is today, somewhere around, 45-ish, like that's massive opportunity. So as a founder, how are you thinking about that from a scale perspective? The in real life experiences are so meaningful, but we also know that to reach more women, like we have to create digital experiences, which I know you guys are doing. Absolutely. So like, what does that future look like for barre3?
It's really exciting. I just got back from a conference in New York City with Athletech, and they brought in industry leaders, including data scientists, and all different people that are studying this space, from private equity to data scientists to other leaders in my category. So cool. And it is just, the trajectory is bullish, and specifically around women. So exciting.
Right.
So, it feels pretty good. I'm really motivated right now. Awesome. Our entire team is motivated. We are all about growth. We've proven that we can scale. We have a really strong infrastructure after all these years. We have a really strong team, right? Headquartered here in Portland, Oregon. So cool. Everything from franchisee systems to marketing to operations to legal to construction. It's the whole thing.
It's the full,
and really going out and empowering more people to open barre3 so we can reach more women.
Yeah.
Our studio business is the foundation of our company, and how we define a foundation is if we didn't do that one thing well, we wouldn't exist. And it is our studio business, like how well we deliver in the real life experience. But we do have diverse revenue stream. We have the digital product, which I started in 2011 because I scratched my own itch before it was a thing. Because I had so many clients that I was tired of writing out their workouts when they went to Hawaii for vacation. Like literally, that's why I started it. I was like, there's a problem, I'm going to solve it, and it was my husband with the camera and me doing these workouts in our studio.
I'm obsessed. That's so cool.
But that's how it started, and that continues to be now today. Most boutique concepts also have a digital component because we get to work out however we need to. And I joke with the young mom that there's nap jail when, especially if you have 2 kids, someone's always napping and you can't leave the house.
100%. That is seriously the best. I'm going to call it that for the rest of time.
It's nap jail. You can't get out of your house. But you can do a 30-minute workout, right? And
True.
So those are the things we're always talking and listening to our clients about and trying to meet them where they are. So I think our growth is more of what we're doing.
I'm going to just share this because I'm in nap jail right now. And so I get on my Peloton. That's what I do. But I'm very interested now to do the barre3 digital experience. One thing that has saved me, and I think the fitness space could really benefit from, is figuring out how to tap into kids' workouts. So what I do, because I want my kids to be active, it's really important to me, I turn on kids' workouts on YouTube while I work out. And it is such a fun experience because they're doing little Mario Kart things. And these are very low, fidelity things.
Yeah.
But they have millions of views on YouTube because YouTube's the #1 streaming platform. So I think there could be a really interesting growth industry, and how for moms, how do you get moms to convert to barre3 at home when they're in nap jail, but then also get their kids involved, their oldest kid, that could be really, really fun. But
she's full of ideas.
I'm freelancing right now, Sadie.
Well, I will say that we send out surveys to our entire audience.
That's
we
awesome.
do a lot of research, and again, listening to our clients. And one thing we have heard is that stay-at-home moms who homeschool their kids use barre3 as their curriculum.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because also the language. We're so body positive. We're not sexualizing, women, and it's very much about being strong, and it's also science-based, and so they have it as part of their at-home curriculum.
That is so brilliant.
It's a huge compliment.
Wow. Because it's for me, like when I'm on my Peloton, it brings me joy to know that they're moving and having fun and not just like, rotting in front of the TV, and that they're like exploring movement in a really fun way, like with Mario and like the floor is lava and all these really fun games. And I'm like, these YouTube creators are brilliant. It's so like
Sadie,
it's so CGI.
you have 2 years to figure it out when I become a mom. So
Okay.
I'll be ready to go.
No, I mean, I'm just
I'll
gonna...
get on your schedule.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got this.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, Sadie, I just feel like we could talk to you forever, but this has been truly an honor to have you on the podcast. And I feel like there's so many sound bites that are going to really inspire a lot of women. So thank you for everything.
So much,
Thank
Sadie.
you
were
for
amazing.
starting this and for everything you're bringing to the world with this podcast. It's awesome.
I hope that we can get into one of your classes and take it, because I'm sure your classes fill up like this. But
I know people.
yeah,
I can get you in there.
like
Yes.
put in the good
You'll
word
see
for
the
us.
5'2" and the 6'1" in together.
That'd be. I'd love it.
It would
I'd
be
love
so cool to take your
Yeah.
class.
It's really fun to go with our friends, especially your first class, to
Yeah.
bring people. I love the gigglers. Like, I always know when people are new and they're like laughing at the ballet bar together, just like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
I'll try and
right
be
now?
serious.
Well, we are on this journey together to play sport, not just talk about sport, but to play sport. So we
Yeah.
went snowboarding this weekend together.
Yeah.
And Jacki's learning. I'm like, it's the first sport I'm better at than her. So we have
Oh
this
my
like little
gosh.
secret
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
We'll have to see
awesome.
who's better at bar.
That's true.
It's probably going to be you.
Everybody's better.
I'm not like flexible at all, so I don't think I'll
I used to be able to do
great.
the splits.
That's
not
the number
anymore.
one thing we hear is I'm not flexible enough,
Yeah.
and you don't need to be flexible.
Okay.
You don't
Love
need
that.
to be coordinated either.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, we hear that a lot.
I
I,
bet you
think
have the
people
best
think
insights.
it's ballet, like we have the leg up on the ballet
Like the
bar.
ballet and the yoga
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
makes me
no,
feel
it's
like-
more postural.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually quite athletic. Like
Love
I
that.
said, we have a lot of athletes that come
Yeah.
in and love it for that reason.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
We're going.
rehabilitative.
Yeah.
You get
Right
ready.
there.
My sister's pregnant. She'll go with us.
Let's do it.
There we go.
Well, for everybody listening, there's a barre3 in 40 states. So make sure you go look up
40
your bar,
plus.
40 plus states, and soon to be more than that, I'm sure. Look up your local bar, follow Sadie on Instagram, and also make sure you're following barre3. But thank you, Sadie.
Thank you so
the
much,
best.
Sadie.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Hi, this is fun.
I mean, that interview was just, it was so good. I feel like she had so many like lines of just amazing wisdom, and I was just like pretty lost in the interview, if I'm being honest. Like I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask her, but also just like,
Wanted to listen.
staring at her and listening to her speak. I also think, and I told her this after the interview, I think she'd be an incredible motivational speaker to
100%.
to
That was
current
brilliant.
and former athletes, just because like her approach and her demeanor and the way she delivers her messages and how like mindful she is of just like herself and just the people around her and their feelings. Like it was really, really awesome to
She
hear
has such a
because
presence.
she does. And it's like in the sports world, it's like it comes from such a different perspective and just such like a harder perspective, and she just comes off so soft and just very eloquent and just it was just really, really inspiring.
Well, and I think for me, there were a couple themes that really stood out to me. The first one is, as a founder myself now with you, so many of the ways she described the feelings of being a founder just were really inspiring to me, because it is really, really hard to like break through the noise and just be like, I'm gonna do this.
Right.
And I just have deep, deep respect, especially you think back to like, 2008, you know, the people that are helping us right now, right? Like you think back to like 2008 and what it was like back then. I mean, she has forged a path for women in such a significant way. And also she's just the coolest human. Like she's not your typical CEO.
No.
Like,
So
she's
down to
just
earth.
so down to earth. And like, I could
Very
easily see myself
relatable.
like doing a class with her, which we're going to. The second theme was just her perspective on motherhood, and for me, and just body image. I think those are two things that are deeply entwined in my experience as a woman. And I just like her vulnerability, and I got emotional in a couple of those sections because I could feel my passion oozing out for what she was saying.
No, I loved your guys' chemistry with that topic.
It just was really so meaningful, and we just need more women talking about those things because we just don't, we just don't. And so that's why I think it's such an honor for us to have this platform where we can.
I think she helped you opened up a little bit with that
She
topic too. and it
did.
was
She
nice
really,
to
really
see.
did. So yeah, those were really big takeaways for me.
Totally. I feel like it could be both of our slam dunks and air balls
There
at the
for
same
it.
time. Lauren and I got our first troll on Instagram. Shout out to, I don't remember the name, the handle, but shout out to her or him. She or he commented on one of our videos that we did here and alluded to the fact that I had greasy hair.
I'm sorry.
And
I can't handle
listen,
that.
it was absolutely hilarious.
I was about to go crazy on
I
this
looked
person,
at
by
it
the
and I
way.
laughed. I sent it to Lauren. I was like, oh my God, we got our first troll. Like, this is epic. We're moving in the right direction.
I was like, I was so offended
Yeah.
for you. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go respond. And
Yeah.
you were like, no, this means we're going.
I took a negative situation and turned it into a positive one.
I loved how you responded.
Yeah, I just responded with crying, laughing emojis. And what I'm even more obsessed with is another follower liked my crying face emojis. I DM'd her and I'm like, I'm obsessed with you for liking my emojis. It was so funny.
I cannot. I'm
Oh
gonna
my God.
cry.
So it's like,
Ugh.
I don't have greasy hair. So this
No,
fool
your
is
hair's
tripping.
beautiful. Are you
I
kidding
mean,
me?
thanks.
It's like I have a really hard time with the concept of trolls because people just like wouldn't say that to you in real life.
No, of course not.
But also,
It's
I
fucking funny.
I
It's
just
hella
think,
funny.
I just think your response was epic to me.
Yeah.
Because I know like we're gonna get more, and I need to build up that thick skin.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so there's that.
People are gonna be talking mad shit.
Of course they are, because
Yeah.
people talk mad shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, come talk to me in my face. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people will comment on my makeup or what. I don't give a shit. I'm like, actually, I probably will feel, and then I will move on.
Yeah.
And I'll text you and be like, I need you
We're
to
gonna
say something
talk through
positive.
it. We're gonna laugh about it. It's gonna be
It's gonna be a thing.
a time. It's gonna be fine though.
I do think that's a good like slam dunk and airball.
I do. I like have nothing more to say.
Okay, I have one.
What's your airball?
Okay.
I always like starting with the bad and then ending on top.
Okay, this is probably going to put us in a political arena, but I don't give a shit. I'm going to say it anyway. I am deeply, and I know this is going to air after this news, but I don't care. We're on a news podcast. I am deeply, deeply disturbed by the social media networks and removing, and specifically Meta. I'm looking at you, Mark Zuckerberg, and how they are taking fact checking out of their community policy. And I just find it deeply disturbing.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, so basically it just takes away an important element of like if someone puts out something that's fake, that's deeply fake news, right?
Okay.
Their fact checking systems won't, at least this is as far as I understand it, okay? I would go to Pivot to like understand it more, like go to the experts like Kara Swisher, Scott Galloway or someone else. But as far as I understand it, like it basically enables more hate speech and more just fake news to get through the pipeline, which
Okay.
is already a massive issue because they're just loosening those requirements
Yeah.
on posts. And it's just deeply disturbing to me. And we've talked about this before. We talked about our last episode with Jenny, or our last slam dunks and airballs. But for me, like social media, I have such a love-hate relationship
Yeah.
with it because we need it to grow our business and reach more people. But I also know what it does to this world and what
Yeah.
it does to kids, how it drives loneliness. Like it's just such a complex thing. So when someone like that and that person, a man like that comes out and like puts a statement like that out there that they just don't care,
Mm-hmm.
it just is deeply,
Yeah,
deeply
that's
disturbing
alarming,
to
for
me.
sure.
It's alarming. So, I think I want to focus on other social networks as much as we can, but unfortunately, like we still have to leverage our networks where we have growth.
Yeah.
But that's why I hope our podcast can be a bright light
Yeah,
in
that's what I was gonna say,
like
like-
a very dark space.
Yeah.
Because, we're not reporters.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in PR, but I'm not a reporter. I've always had deep respect for journalism and the integrity of journalism and journalists and what they go through. And I still think old media is very important to the standards of good reporting. So new media should really be celebrating that
Yeah.
and really looking to the experts. So we're going to do that on this podcast.
Yeah, and we're controlling our own narrative and the messages that we want,
Absolutely.
that we
to
want
put
out there. So they're going to
Absolutely.
be nothing but positive. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
So, okay. My slam dunk of the week is we launched the podcast in December during the holidays. Mama and Jack were working their asses off
Yeah.
to do this during the holidays. But it brings us joy. And we have grown really fast. And I look at it and I'm like, is this real? Is this happening?
yeah,
And I know I have to stop saying things like that because I'm like, it is, because we have something great here. But just that growth has been such a slam dunk for me because I think it's going to open the doors for more opportunities. Because really, at the end of the day, like, we're doing this podcast to make an impact on women's lives. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it to bring more women into sport, and to create a safe space to talk about all the things, right?
Yep.
Women's health, women's fitness, being an athlete, careers, fashion, beauty, all the things that we love and kind of bonded over.
Yeah.
So I think that is, a huge slam dunk because we're off to something strong.
But shout out to your relentlessness, your passion, your drive, like your commitment to this project. Like, I mean, we wouldn't be here without you, Lauren. And
I love you, Jack.
yeah, I think everyone in this room knows that as well.
Well,
but-
I mean, you guys have all taken a risk on this vision too. So you should be really proud of the fact that we're all here together still.
Yeah, no, girl, we're fucking killing this thing.
We are.
This shit has been so much fun.
It's fun, right?
It is so much
I
fun.
wake up every morning and I'm like, I am driving my own destiny. I reach out to who I want to reach out to. I have I call Chow, who's our creative director. I call P. I hit her up all the time. I'm like, hey, P. I just call him out of the blue. I call you. I mean, it's just like, it feels like such a tight-knit team. Grace, like, we're such a great crew. And that's just, crew. That's rare to find.
Yeah.
Rare to find.
You've definitely put something very special together.
We both have. So anyways, well, I'm going to Blazer games. I got to go.
Oh, okay. So
who do we think is going to win, the Nets or the Blazers?
I honestly have no clue, but let's just go with the Blazers.
It's going to be neck and neck.
Yeah.
But I probably will be like slightly watching because I'll be running after my children. Yeah. Because it's their first Blazer game.
Oh my God. It's so exciting. So that's why Haley was so hung up on the sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll share the sign on our social. It was so cute. She made this Go Blazer sign with like a stick. It was then
a stick that Nick went outside and got.
I know. It was so cute.
He's such a committed father. I'm literally obsessed with him.
He's literally the best dad.
Yeah.
He is, especially for his job and like what he sees and what he does. I'm just like, and I try and give him grace when he's a crab.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like the eternal optimist. But how could you not be like crab after seeing the things he's seen, right?
Yeah, don't even get me started.
And so like someone said the other day, this is the last point I'll make. They're like, dude, could you imagine if meth didn't exist? Like you wouldn't have a job. And Nick was like,
damn,
that's,
you really put it into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's like, it's wild. He's a trauma surgeon. I've mentioned that a couple times, but his life is wild.
Yeah, it is.
Anyways, I gotta go, but I love you so much.
I love you too.
This was so fun. We out.
Yeah, we killed this thing.
We out.